Hi.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Y'all, today we are doing my February reading wrap up. Does anyone else feel like this month just flew by? I know it's like a shorter month, but I feel like I literally just filmed my January wrap up and now we're just already here. I don't know, it's been a very interesting few weeks for me. I feel like I've been all over the place. I'm honestly kind of behind on my reviews. So several of the books that I'm gonna talk about right now, you guys haven't yet seen a review for on my channel, but I promise you it will be coming in the next week or two. I will always review every single book that I read for you guys. But yeah, I just wanna kind of quickly talk through all of them without any spoilers, give you a brief synopsis of each book that I read in the month of February, and yeah, tell you my thoughts. So let's just get into it. This month seriously started off so right with a book that I loved so much and am still thinking about. The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. This book was just so freaking good, so freaking interesting. Basically, this story follows a girl named Katrina and a guy named Nathan. They met each other at a writing workshop in New York several years before the start of this book, and they ended up becoming this writing duo that took the world by storm. They sold some super mega bestsellers and people loved them. They couldn't get enough of them, but for some reason unknown to the public, Nathan and Katrina had some sort of falling out and no longer are writing together. At the start of this story, we see from both of their perspectives that something clearly went wrong. Some years have gone by, but now they have realized that they actually have one more book left on their publishing contract. So they basically have to reunite to write another book together. And this book is just so freaking good because it does one of my absolute favorite things that romance books does. It has time jumps, it has flashbacks. Every few chapters, every other chapter sometimes even, we're jumping from present day, Nathan and Katrina reuniting and writing this new book together. You can see this like tension between them. You're trying to figure out what happened, what went wrong. And then we're also jumping to the past, where they got together to write their last best-selling book. You're seeing how their friendship and their bond was so beautiful, like the things that they went through, and you're just trying to figure out like what on earth could have made these two people that were so close stop speaking to one another. Seriously, loved this book so much. It reminded me, I said this in my video, it's a literal combination of Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, both by Emily Henry. I personally was not a huge fan of Beach Read, which is a hot take, but People We Meet on Vacation was one of my absolute favorite books I read last year, one of my favorite books ever, and I feel like this book is literally Beach Read, but took out like all the parts that I didn't think were amazing and just like inserted parts of People We Meet on Vacation. Like it's the perfect combination of the two with the time jumps and the sort of like friends to lovers and then the writing the book together aspect in like a forced proximity sort of situation in a small town. Like it's just so similar, but just so good. Not nearly enough people are talking about this book. It just came out in the last month or two, but y'all go read it because it needs some more hype. And next, I read a couple of books on my Kindle. The first being Claimed by Cupid by Dana Izali. This is just a spicy little Valentine's Day themed novella, which is the sequel to the spicy little Christmas themed novella called Dipped in Holly. You guys might have remembered hearing me talk about that back in December in my wrap up. There's really not much to this little novella series. It's basically about this girl named Holly. In the start of Dipped in Holly, she basically is at this bar where she very publicly finds out that her boyfriend has cheated on her in front of all her friends, all of her coworkers. So she's like in the bathroom crying about it. The owner of the bar named Nick ends up finding her in the bathroom and he makes her feel just fine and get over her boyfriend very quickly. Like I said, that novella was Christmas themed, and then it was basically one big long drawn out spicy scene and then ended pretty like wholesome and cute and lovey-dovey. And Claimed in Cupid now is like the continuation of Nick and Holly's story, set in Valentine's Day with some Valentine's Day themed spiciness. And I know this is gonna be a thing now. We're gonna continue to see Nick and Holly throughout the various holidays, and it's just really fun. It gets you festive, it gets you in the spirit. The spice is great. It's a nice little palate cleanser to throw in a super short little novella every once in a while. Doesn't require a lot of thought it's just a good time. But yeah, super good. And the next book I read, also on my Kindle, also on Kindle Unlimited, was Ride by Harper Dallas. I freaking loved this book as well. The Olympics made me do it, is all I will say. Basically, this story follows this girl named Brooke. She is a live action sports photographer and she is going through some hard times. She is a freelance photographer and she's just, times are tough, you know, you have to get like different jobs here and there. She's kind of living in and out of her car. She really wants a steady paycheck. She dreams of working at this photography sports magazine called Wild. She dreams of like winning this huge photography competition called Illuminations. Like she just has like all these dreams and aspirations of being an awesome photographer, but she's just hasn't found the right opportunities. And basically whenever her best friend finds out that she's like down in the dumps right now, she ends up inviting her to come and join her on this vacation that she's currently in Switzerland. And the way that she convinces Brooke is because this massive snowboarding championship is about to be going on in the town she's in Switzerland. And Brooke is a massive fan of snowboarding. She's a snowboarder herself and she's not really down to just like travel across the world at this very moment, but she knows if she goes over there, there's an opportunity that she can get some great pictures, she can make some great connections. It would just be really smart of her to go. So she ends up going, and right after getting off the plane in Switzerland, she goes to get her bag from baggage claim and she notices this guy is grabbing her bag off of the carousel. She goes up and she stops him, and when he turns around, she realizes that it is Chase Austin, the world's biggest, most famous, most talented, most renowned snowboarder, and also the same man that she had posters of on her wall when she was a kid. Her biggest idol, her childhood crush, just everything combined, but most importantly, her absolute dream client. Like if Brooke could dream of photographing anybody, it would be Chase Austin. But very quickly, Chase lives up to his playboy attitude and reputation, and they don't get off to a very good start with one another. She wants to work with him. He simply wants something else from her. But you know, they end up going to this town together. They're both there at the same time as this championship, obviously, so they end up running into each other. Things happen. Eventually an opportunity does arise that Brooke could be the photographer for Chase's snowboarding team. Chase is not about it, is determined to not let her be the photographer for the team, but slowly but surely she ends up becoming the photographer ultimately. This is all just the very beginning of the book, and a whole journey ensues afterwards. I said in my review of this book that it is quite literally the love child of Culty by Mariana Zapata and Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Like, it's just, that explanation is so perfect. Like, Miles is a total playboy and he comes off right away as just like a kind of toxic guy that you don't want to get involved with, but you learn that there's like something so much deeper to him and so many reasons why he's the way that he is. And I just loved the book. It's going to be a whole series, and again, like, nobody's freaking talking about it, and they need to be, because I loved it. Next, I read Twisted Games by Anna Huang. This is the second book in the Twisted series. I literally just did a review on this book a couple of days ago. I'm still not over it, y'all. Like, this book was everything. I absolutely love Twisted Love. It was like a brother's best friend sort of situation. This story, however, so completely different. If you don't know, the Twisted series is sort of like a companion novel series, meaning there is like a slight overarching story, but really it's 4 separate standalone books about a girl within this friend group and a relationship she's having with a guy, different girl for each of the books. And this story specifically focused on this girl named Bridget. She goes to this university with all of her other friends in her friend group in America, but she's actually the princess of this really small country in Europe called Eldora. It's very Princess Diaries-esque, and basically at the start of the story, we learn that her security guard is sort of like retiring or taking a leave because his wife is having a baby back in Eldora, and so she's getting assigned a new guard, and this guard's name is Reese Larson, and he is not anything at all like her other guard. He's in his mid-30s, he's an ex-Navy SEAL, very tall, very tattoo covered, very handsome, and a royal pain in Bridget's ass. He's super strict, super overprotective, super cautious. It just makes it really, really hard for Bridget to live any sort of normal life. They butt heads like crazy, but their relationship, because they have to spend every minute of every day together and quite literally have to live together, things are bound to happen, tensions are bound to rise and allow for a very complicated, very scandalous situation that becomes even more scandalous when, this isn't a spoiler because it's on the back of the book, Bridget's brother ends up abdicating from the throne. She wasn't the first in line, so it was never a big deal that she didn't live in the country. She was able to have a lot of freedom because she was never going to be queen, really. But now she is. And girls that are allowed to be queens aren't allowed to have crushes on their hot bodyguards. So I think you can imagine the things that ensue. This book was so good. Every aspect of it. The quotes, the slow burn, the tension, the spice. Seriously, it blew my mind. Blew Twisted Love out of the water, and I already really love that book, and I'm so excited to continue this series because this one was just... The rest of these books, I'm gonna have reviews coming in the next few days, like I said, so I don't want to go like too in depth in them, but I will just like obviously show them to you and touch on them. The next book I read in the month of February was Looking for Alaska by John Green. For those of you that don't know, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green is my favorite book of all time. My favorite book to ever exist. It means so much to me, and I have literally owned this book since right after I read The Fault in Our Stars. Like, it's been on my various bookshelves. You can literally tell it's like yellow since probably 2012 or 2013. But I just never read it until now. I think I was honestly like a little afraid to read another John Green book just because I love The Fault in Our Stars so much, and it also just kind of like hurt me so much. He's just, his brain, I don't understand him. He's just, I feel like we're really similar. I said I wasn't gonna go off on a tangent, but here I am going off on a tangent. Basically, what this book is about is this guy named Miles. He is kind of a nerd. He's really obsessed with last words, like people's last words before they die, and his favorite last words are this man that says he's going to seek the great perhaps, which is like, the great perhaps, like we don't know, like the possibilities are endless, and he doesn't want to wait until he dies to seek the great perhaps. So he's decided that he's gonna go off and go to this boarding school because his life is just boring and he needs to switch up, and so he goes to a boarding school in this small town. And shortly after getting to this boarding school, he meets lots of people, this group of friends, but mainly he meets this girl named Alaska Young, and Alaska is just extraordinary. She's beautiful, she's wild, she's like nobody Miles has ever met before. She's so interesting. There's so much to her, and he just opens her eyes and her world to like things that he never knew existed, and he just becomes enamored with her right away. And you know, he gets to a point where he doesn't know what his life was like before he met Alaska, but what the real kicker of this all is life is never the same after he meets her. Was that good? I feel like did I suck you in? Did I make you read this book? This is just like The Fault in Our Stars, just like everything John Green does. It's a book that freaking gets inside your brain. It's an earworm, is that what that's called? It just wiggles in there and it makes you think. It's about, you know, the meaning of life and just friendship and just seeing what people go through. There's just a whole lot to it. It's very deep. It deals with some very dark subject matters. Lots of trigger warnings there. It's written in 2005, so a time where we weren't nearly as sensitive and cautious about things that we talked about, so I would just be aware of that. But yeah, I really love this book. I'm gonna do a full, very rambly review on it. Probably gonna film it literally right after this video, so that'll be out in the next day or two, but yeah, I loved it. And the next book I read in the month of February, this is honestly a lie. I'm lying to you right now because I didn't read this book in February. I read it over the course of, I swear to God, the last like 8 months. Y'all, and this is such a hot take, and I don't even want to say this to y'all, like I'm gonna get canceled, but The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I started this book, like I said, probably 8 months ago, and I don't know if I was in a slump or what, but I, for the life of me, couldn't get into it, and it was breaking my heart because I was so excited to read this book. Like, I am a huge Greek mythology fan, and the story sounded so interesting. I'd heard so many amazing things about it, but I could not get past the first 50 pages. So I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm in a slump. I'm just gonna put it down. I tried to pick it back up like a month later, still couldn't get into it. About a month or two, it was probably last month, I had an Audible credit and I'm like, let me just try to listen to the audiobook of this. And I started it over from the beginning, and you know, for a while there, I got somewhat into it, like a little bit towards the middle, but it just, I have no other way to say this besides this was like the slowest, most boring, most dry book I have read in so long, like maybe my whole life. Like, I know people love it and I know it's people's like favorite book, and I just don't know how to explain it. Again, I'm gonna do a review where I talk more in-depthly about this. It's about the story of Achilles and Patroclus. Achilles is a story so many people know. Achilles' heel, like it's a well-known story, and that was the story I was expecting from this, but instead it was just a very long, drawn-out story of war with a little sprinkling of romance. I don't know. Long story short, I didn't love it. It was a big disappointment to me. I frankly don't get it. I don't get the hype. I think I'm maybe just like not cultured enough to get it, but yeah, very sad day for me. And the next book I read in the month of February, I'm actually still reading. I have a tiny bit of it left. I started it the last day of February, which I guess was yesterday, and I sat down and read like 3/4 of it in one sitting, like not even planning to do that, but it just drug me in, like I couldn't stop. In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. My best friend is not a reader, and she happened to pick this book up in the airport like 6 months ago, and I had heard things about it at that point. Like, I told her, she sent me a picture of the book selection, and there weren't many that I'd seen or heard of, but this one I was like, I've heard some good things about that. She flew through it and loved it, and has been literally texting me every week since she read it, being like, have you read that book yet? Have you read that book yet? I finally am reading the book, and I completely understand. It grips you, it pulls you in. It's such an interesting concept. Basically, this story follows this girl named Danny, and she is a person that lives by the numbers. She is a lawyer. She has planned out like every minute of her life. Like, she knows, like, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to graduate at this age, I'm going to date someone for this long, we will then move in together, we will then get engaged at this age, I will get married at this age, we will have kids by this age, I will be a partner in a law firm by this age. Like, she has her whole life planned out down to a T, and she relies on that, and she trusts in that, and that's all she knows. And basically at the start of the story, right in line with her plan, when she planned it, she gets engaged to her boyfriend, or her fiance. No, her boyfriend, who then becomes her fiance. It's been a long day, y'all. She gets engaged, and she goes back to her apartment in New York, and when she falls asleep that night, she ends up waking up in a very different life. She looks at the TV, looks at the calendar, and it is 5 years later. And the kicker of it all is she's not in the same apartment, she's not in the same place, and she's not with the same man. She doesn't know what's happened, where she is, but she lives an hour in this sort of alternate life that is 5 years from now with this new man. And she wakes up and realizes it was just a really vivid dream. And even though it was just a dream, she can't shake it. It sticks with her. And she can't stop thinking about it, because it just felt so real, and it was so out of character for her, the way her life was that way. It just didn't make any sense. It didn't align with her plans. It's not what she would have wanted or planned for herself, but in a lot of ways it just felt good. But as the years kind of pass after this dream, she starts putting pieces together and seeing things in her real life that hint that maybe that could have been more than a dream, and maybe it was more of like a premonition of sorts. It's just so interesting. I'm not quite done with it, like I said, but I'm so interested to see like what happens in this book, like what the meaning of it all was, like how it turns out. It's definitely one of those books which, you guys, if you've watched my channel for a while, like, you know, I'm a sucker for books that talk about the meaning of life and touch on like what our purpose is and like what's really important, and just talk about the best way to navigate life and just the way to live. And I just get really obsessed with those types of things. I mean, The Fault in Our Stars is my favorite book. John Green is one of my favorite authors. Like, it's who I am. I'm perpetually stressed of getting older and living my life the way I want to and doing all the things and going on all the adventures I think I want. And we get stuck in that rut sometimes of life, and we're on the hamster wheel, and it's sometimes important to remind yourself what's really important. And I feel like this is totally one of those books, and I'm loving it, and I'm not quite done, but I definitely already recommend it. Again, review will be coming shortly. And the last book, I haven't finished this yet, but I gotta mention it to y'all because you're gonna be asking me. Court by Tracy Wolff, the 4th book in the Crave series. It's a vampire romance set at a boarding school, paranormal creatures. If you don't know about the Crave series, I've made a whole bunch of videos on it, but I promise you guys, I'm reading this book. I'm doing a reading vlog of it. If I'm being quite honest with you guys, like I said earlier in this video, this has been a psychotic month for me, a psychotic few weeks. Work has been quite honestly kicking my ass, and because I'm doing a reading vlog of this, I just haven't been in the mood or in the headspace to come home and vlog. Therefore, I have kind of put off reading it. I'm about 200 pages in, so it's happening. I promise you're getting the vlog. I'm enjoying the book a lot so far. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I needed a little break from the vlogging, but it's coming. I'm reading this book. I'll talk more about it in my next month wrap up. But yeah, guys, those are all the books I read in the month, or partially read in the month of February. I would love to hear what y'all's favorite book was that you read this past month. If you've read any of these books, I would love your thoughts. You guys know the drill. Yeah. Subscribe if you want to. I never tell you guys to like or subscribe, but it really helps me out so much, and it means the world to me when you do. So if you've been watching for a while and you haven't subscribed, here's your sign. Do the thing if you want to. If you like me. If you want to be my friend. I don't know what I'm doing. Literally delirious. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye!